In my preparation for my doctoral dissertation, I was identifying what are the biggest trends that are going to affect the church, and that's already affecting the church. The two biggest macro trends, number one was the graying of the church. All around the world, the church is getting older and older here in America and around the world, and there seems to be no resolve or no answer for that. Number two is the rate of change. The world is changing so fast. We've seen that with the pandemic, but it's been changing really at an accelerated pace for a number of years now. What in the world do we do to try to shift and change the direction of the church as it's getting older and older? As I'm doing research, traveling to more than 50 nations, speaking to leaders from 100 different nations over the last 3 years, I discovered something that just was exciting and it blew my mind. And I call them exponential churches. They don't even know each other, most of them, but they're using very similar models. It's growing not just in numbers, but they're growing in depth. And as they're growing disciples who are growing in their faith, they make them into multipliers. The median age of a church attendee in America of a mega church is 40 years old. In England, the median age of an attendee of a church is 61 years old. Most churches are getting older, but exponential churches are either staying the same or getting younger. We've known for a long time, hey, these young people, they're leaving. I've did huge events all over America for 25, 30 years with millions in attendance. And even with that, we kept seeing they go off to college, they come back, they don't come back to church. What are we going to do about it? Well, these exponential churches have learned what to do about it. We've curated the best practices of these exponential churches that can be used anywhere around the world. Here in America, in Canada, in Africa. So exponential churches have this in common. Number one, the pastor is the chief strategist. So the guy who runs Viacom, that owns MTV, he's not young, he's not cool, he's smart. How can we strategize? Can we be smart about reaching the next generation? Number two, they're constantly focused on reaching the young generation. If I could tell you a place in the river where every time you go, 90% of the fish that are ever caught are always caught right there, wouldn't you go there every time? Well, that's what exponential pastors and leaders do. They realize that 90% of the people who ever come to Christ before they're 20 years old. Why wouldn't we always go there? In Christianity, we have this conundrum because we think, well, Jesus loves everybody. Let's go after everybody. We don't reach very many of anybody. And we think, well, if he loves everybody, how can we prioritize people? Well, Jesus did it. You know, he spent more time with the 70 than with the crowds. He spent more time with the 12 than the 70. He spent more time with the 3, Peter, James, and John, than the 12. He prioritized based on people's willingness to be receptive, and so must we. And so, second best practices, these exponential churches really go after the young generation. Some youth ministry is spent on trying to catch kids who don't want to get caught. They're 16, 17, 18, and they're not coming, whatever, unless their parents drag them. But 13-year-olds, they want to get caught. They're like, who's going to accept me at this age? Is it the cool guys? Is it people like this music? Is it the jocks? Some of these exponential churches learn, what is the 13-year-old footprint in my city? It's about going after those most likely to come to Christ. They get so pulled into how do you grow in your faith, and after a year or so, they're being trained how to lead people in small groups. So they're 14 or 15 and they're leading 13-year-olds. And so it becomes exponential because they're not just measuring how many are in my church. They're measuring how many are becoming disciple makers. That's the exponential component of an exponential church. So I want to encourage you to take a journey, start a journey, begin exploring what the exponential church looks like and how you can apply it to your city, your town, your church. All the principles will translate to your context of ministry. What are these best practices? What is the philosophy? What's the paradigm shift? What's the foundation? That's Exponential 101. Exponential 201 is building the house on the foundation, is how to apply the best practices to your city, your town. It's actually a 12-month walkthrough, what you do the first month and the second month and the third month, all the way for the whole first year of becoming an exponential church. Why wouldn't we start a new norm by taking on best practices from what we know is working all around the world? Exponential 101 will help you start that journey. It's for you and 10 of your team members to go through together over the course of 6 weeks. It will help you embrace a whole new future of what normal could look like for you as you build the foundation for an exponential church.